What do you think? I like it. So after looking at these trees and the paintings and drawings that I looked at, I saw that the trees in all of them were pretty shabby. Nobody had a good symmetrical Christmas tree. So I just found this one in the woods, and it looks like it's going to be perfect because it's not good. It's not symmetrical. So I'm going to clip some of these lower branches off so that we can put it in a Christmas tree stand. So I saw in the drawings that most of the Christmas trees were either nailed into some wood planks or they were put in a bucket. So I need to cut these lower branches off so that it'll fit in this bucket here, this steel bucket. I think that's good. Trying to get it to fit in here. Christmas tree stand. It's period accurate. I mean, anyone in the 1800s would have had a steel bucket. So I'm going to use this steel bucket to put the Christmas tree in, and I think the easiest, cheapest thing to do is just to fill it with rocks. People in the 1800s would have had a bucket full of rocks, so this is something that they could have done for a Christmas tree stand. What do you think? It's about 12 feet tall, but I'm just gonna leave it. If you see, the branches aren't symmetrical. None of them were. Looking back at the old pictures, everybody's tree was all asymmetrical. I guess they just didn't have time to deal with it, but in any case, it's an 1800s Christmas tree. It's gonna be. It needs something. It needs a lot of things. We gotta decorate it now, 1800 style. Let's get started. So, from what I've read, people used to do this popcorn garland. I thought that was an old tradition, like from the 70s, like an old tacky tradition, but no, that goes way back. That's 1800s. Making popcorn garland is 1800s. And it makes sense because they had popcorn and they had needles and they had sewing thread. So let's do that first. Let's get some popcorn going. It's 21 degrees right now. And I feel pretty good, even without the fire, it still feels good out because I'm working hard. I'm cutting and sawing and chopping up wood. So when you do that type of stuff, it starts to get hot. So I mean, you'll find yourself, it'll be 20 degrees, and you'll be out here in short sleeves because it feels good. I'm just gonna make a little bit just for demonstration purposes. People in the 1800s definitely had popcorn, and they definitely had berries. I don't know if they did this popcorn garland with cranberries though, because I don't know if they could get them during the winter time, but if you go out to the woods, you'll see lots of different berries out there that are all red. They're not edible, they're kind of like choke cherry type of things. This is really tedious because the popcorn breaks and you got to find the right place to push the needle through the popcorn. But I imagine that it was like a festive activity that kids, used to do around the fire in the evening. So yeah, popcorn garland. It's really tedious. So the next thing that I read about is that the ornaments back in the old days, like in the 1800s or even 1600s, they were originally like dried, candied fruit. If you were gonna get an orange, where I live in the Midwest, in Illinois or anywhere up here, it would have to travel all the way from Central Florida. That's a long ride by train and horse and wagon and all that stuff. So I'm guessing that the oranges that did make it up here were candied, which is like the old way of preserving fruit. I'll show you how it's done. So these slices right here are full of water, and they'll rot right away. So what we have to do is we have to heat it up in sugar syrup. And when you heat it up in like a boiling sugary syrup, all the water is driven off and replaced with sugar, which is a preservative because it kind of dehydrates the fruit. Water molecules latch on to sugar molecules and they become unavailable for bacteria to use. So essentially it's going to be a really dry, sugary, candied piece of fruit, and that would have lasted long enough to actually be an ornament. So you would put that on the tree, and when the kids woke up Christmas morning, they had all types of like exotic things to eat that they never had before, because it's the 1800s out in the country. So candied oranges was like a rare treat. So let's make some. Okay, so this sugar syrup right here is starting to get brown. It's like caramelizing, almost burning, because the fire's too hot. But it's too hard to work the camera and control the fire at the same time. It's just too much going back and forth. So I do have some other ones that I made on the stove where I had better heat control. So I'll show you those. This is just, you know, demonstration. So now that the water's gone, it's going to be really hard for bacteria to get in there and start living. So they're actually preserved. So the next step is to put them in sugar, dip them in sugar, and let them latch onto the sugar like that. And it gives them a really nice sugary coating, and that right there, that's candy. Well, 1800s candy. So here it is. It's preserved candied fruit. The thing is though, if you give this right here to a modern day kid, they're gonna take a bite and not like it, because the peel makes it so sour and bitter. I like it. I think it's great. If all you ever ate was like cornmeal and salt pork and potatoes, and that's all you had, then biting into a candied orange must have been just electric, because like it is unbelievably sweet. The bitterness and the sourness all come together, and it's just like getting a punch in the a punch in the face. It will light you up if you eat this. I think they're great. They're addicting, but modern day kids probably wouldn't like this. Okay, so we've got popcorn garland, we've got candied fruit. The next thing that this tree needs is another traditional Christmas decoration and treat, is a gingerbread men. But we're not gonna make them the modern day way. There's actually like an old, like 1830s way, like Abe Lincoln way of making gingerbread. I'll show you. So Abe Lincoln told a story at one of his presidential debates. It's like the story of a gingerbread man, and it was supposed to be a joke. It was supposed to be funny. I didn't understand the joke because it doesn't translate to modern day language, and that happens a lot in history, where you look back and you try to figure out what people were thinking, and it doesn't make sense to us because it doesn't translate anymore. And so you'll never know, you know, why the Civil War started or why people fought, because like the actual meanings and ideas change so much over time. So here's a relic of the past. This is, you know, Abe Lincoln era gingerbread man. So I'm gonna put the gingerbread men in the Dutch oven, and I don't know what's gonna happen. It's probably gonna be way too hot. They're probably gonna burn. It only takes about 5 minutes to cook. Can you see all this snow right here? It's cold out. It's like 20 something degrees. Okay, they look good. I'm gonna leave them in there until they cool down, and then I'm going to try to take them out with this. So I've been outside in 20-degree weather for like an hour now, and I'm not cold at all. It's not windy, but I'm not cold because I'm working and I'm moving around. I always wondered how that worked. How did people keep warm? And they had wool, they had leather. So leather is windproof and wool is a good insulator. But was that enough? I think that, you know, when you went outside and you worked, and you carried out your day, You just didn't get cold because you were so busy doing stuff all the time. It's when you sit still, that's when you get cold. Okay, so we have popcorn garland, gingerbread men, candied fruit. I was thinking that we could put some kind of ball. I know that they hung apples from the tree. We could hang some kind of balls like as an ornament, and I think that these might have been candied as well. I don't know if they did that during the 1800s, but they could have, because all it is just an apple with just melted sugar. That's it. Didn't take very long for these things to dry. Listen. Didn't take very long for these things to dry when it's 24 degrees out, but okay. So all the edible decorations are done. We're gonna need a couple more things. And after reading about what Christmas trees were like back in the 1800s, I've got 3 more ideas that would make this tree period accurate. People that lived here during the 1800s had to make do, and they had to use what they had. And all of the Christmas trees that I saw from 1600s to 1800s had some kind of dolls or little like toy soldiers hanging from them. But out here, this far out in the country, if kids wanted dolls, they had to make their own. And a common thing to do would be to make dolls out of corn husk. So let's see if we can make one. These things are scary looking. It reminds me of something from like a horror movie where like there's a little girl that makes these little dolls and leaves them around, and if you find one, then you know that the girl's coming after you. It's something like that. They look pretty scary actually, but it's an ornament and it's period accurate. So we're gonna make a bunch of them and hang them from the tree. We'll see how it looks. So how about tinsel? Did you know that they had tinsel in the 1800s? And it was originally made out of lead and tin. So we'll try it. We'll see if we can make some homemade tinsel and hang it from the tree. It'll be real lead, like authentic tinsel. Okay, so I melted down a mixture of lead and tin. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour this lead into this can right here, which has holes in the bottom. And then I'm going to just drizzle it across the concrete here and see if we can make tinsel. I don't know if it's going to work, but we'll get something out of it. Very, very dangerous. Do not do this ever. Never do this. It's a terrible idea. Okay, so here we go. This is lead tinsel. Yeah, it's like original idea here. Tinsel was around, back in like the 16th century. It was used to decorate statues, not Christmas trees, but. Everything's done. Now it's time to decorate the tree. If we can get this tree decorated without knocking it over and setting it on fire, I'll be very, very happy. If I could just get an hour of use out of this tree, I'd be very happy.